Thorne stood in the center of the cramped trailer, his flashlight beam cutting through the settling dust and the haze of gunpowder. He looked down at Otis's mangled remains, shaking his head. Another one. This isn't just a glitch, Sarah. It's a goddamn hit list. Sarah didn't answer. She was staring at a wood-framed photograph hanging crookedly on the wall, just inches away from a fresh spray of blood. Thorne, she whispered, her voice trembling. Look at this. I knew him. Otis wasn't just some junk man. Thorne stepped closer, squinting at the faded image. It was a group photo taken years ago at a company picnic. In the center stood Otis, looking younger and sharper. Surrounding him were Buck from the gym, David and Julie Miller, and even Jax and Leo. Holy shit, Thorne muttered. It's all of them. Every single person who's been ripped apart in the last 48 hours is in this fucking picture. Sarah pointed a shaky finger at the remaining faces in the photo. Faces that hadn't been crossed out by death yet. There's only 3 left, Thorne. Look. At the edge of the frame stood a cold-looking man in an expensive suit. Max, the high-stakes owner of the Diamond Casino. Next to him was a young girl with a ribbon in her hair, Chloe, the owner's daughter and the lucky survivor from the break-in. The third face was a young man in a security uniform, looking nervous, Mark. It's a sweep, Thorne hissed. They aren't just killing random people. They're erasing everyone associated with the casino's history. They're cleaning house. The distance was suddenly filled with the wail of sirens. Blue and red lights began to dance against the trailer's rusted siding as the local precinct finally caught up. Thorne turned to Sarah, his expression grim. I'm going to find Max. If he's the one who built these things, he's the only one who knows how to kill the power for good. I'm coming with you, Sarah snapped, grabbing his arm. I'm not letting that fucking dog or that chameleon get near me while I'm alone. The hell you are, Thorne growled, prying her hand off. You're a target, Sarah. You've seen too much. I'm calling a squad car to escort you back to your place. You're going to lock your doors, clean Mike's blood off your face, and stay the fuck away from windows. Thorne, don't leave me. You saw what Spike did to Otis. She's still in here somewhere, I can feel it. Get in the back of the cruiser. Thorne shouted, his voice overbearing the approaching sirens. He practically shoved her toward the first responding officer who stepped onto the gravel. Take her home, keep a guard on her door. If anything moves that isn't human, shoot it. Thorne didn't look back at her crying out his name. He jumped into his sedan and slammed it into gear, the tires spitting gravel as he tore out of the trailer park. He had a casino owner to find and a child to protect, leaving Sarah behind in the flickering shadows of the sirens, while the air in the trailer behind her began to shimmer and ripple one last time. The police cruiser sped down the isolated stretch of Highway 42, the rhythmic strobe of blue and red lights bouncing off the dense wall of pine trees on either side. Inside the back seat, Sarah sat huddled in the corner, her hands trembling as she tried to wipe the stubborn, dried blood from her neck. The silence of the woods was suffocating, broken only by the hum of the engine. Up ahead, a massive silhouette emerged in the center of the asphalt. What the hell is that? The officer muttered, squinting through the windshield. Standing in the dead center of the road was Kola. The heavy, mechanical gorilla loomed like a mountain of rusted iron and matted fur, his eyes dark and lifeless. The officer slammed on the brakes, the cruiser skidding to a halt just feet away from the animatronic. Stay in the car, Sarah, the officer barked. He shifted the car into park, then back into drive, then reverse, but the transmission groaned and died. The car wouldn't budge, the engine suddenly choked out by a localized electromagnetic pulse. The electronics flickered once and died, plunging the interior into pitch blackness. The officer kicked his door open, drawing his service pistol. Hey, step away from the vehicle. Hands where I can see him, he shouted, his voice cracking as he stepped into the path of his own headlights. Kola didn't move, he stood like a statue, a silent sentinel of the Diamond Casino's dark past. The officer, focused entirely on the Titan in front of him, glanced back over his shoulder to check on Sarah. Sarah, get down on the floor. His voice died in his throat. Inside the dark cabin of the cruiser, 2 piercing yellow eyes ignited right behind Sarah's head. The air rippled like heat over pavement as Spike dropped her camouflage. Before Sarah could even gasp, Spike's massive, hydraulic jaws unhinged and clamped down with the force of a car press. There was a sickening, wet crunch, the sound of a melon being crushed by a sledgehammer, as Spike's teeth tore through bone and brain matter. Sarah's body went limp instantly, her blood spraying across the inside of the bulletproof glass. No, fucking. The officer spun around to aim at the car, but he was too slow. A shadow fell over him. Cola had moved with impossible, silent speed. A massive, cold hand reached out and gripped the officer's head like a baseball. The officer's finger twitched on the trigger. Bang! A single shot went wide into the trees. It was the last sound he ever made. Cola tightened his grip, the sound of the officer's skull splintering echoing through the quiet woods. The scene fell silent. The cruiser's lights were dead. Sarah was a headless ruin in the backseat, and the officer lay crumpled on the asphalt. Spike hopped out of the broken window, her scales shifting back to the dark green of the forest, while Cola looked down the road toward the city, his work finally done.